Chapter 176, No Face Needed. After returning, Fang Hao conveyed the spirit of the meeting to Lu Yu. While it was essential to follow the directives from above, they also needed to strategize. Lu Yu said, Fang Hao, when the new director arrives, I might also have to leave the gynecology department. The rest will rely on you. Fang Hao was surprised, asking, why? It's not hard to understand. The new director will definitely want to build her own team. My seniority here would hinder her authority. If you're not here, then I have no reason to stay. I'll go to Director Lu Jing's side. I don't know what kind of person the new director will be, and if I don't get along with her, I'll be at her mercy. I can't afford that. Oh, can Director Lu become the vice dean? She's also in play, but I don't know the specifics. Personnel changes involve high-level maneuvering, and it's a complex game. I'm not good at it. Of course, you don't have to worry about your situation right now. As long as you manage gynecology well and avoid major problems, even if a new director comes, they'll have to rely on you. Exceptional medical skills are valued everywhere. If things aren't going well here, Director Lu won't stand idly by. Okay, I can rest assured then. I'll go to the outpatient clinic. Fang Hao didn't have much confidence in Lu Yu. Even though she had some connections, being older, she might lose influence with personnel changes. Fang Hao didn't place his hopes on Lu Yu but rather on Lu Jing. He calmed himself, then went to the clinic to see patients. Yue Xia Huo arrived at Jiangdong Construction Group and met Su Ro. Taking the coffee from Su Ro, she said straightforwardly, I saw your husband, and his attitude was very unfriendly. Su sister, he has such a good temper, only you can tolerate him. Coming from the countryside, what's there to be arrogant about? My husband is better than you think. Don't underestimate him. If he's unfriendly to you, it's because he sees through your true nature. He should know our relationship, as well as his relationship with you. If he doesn't know who he is, then, how's his mental state? Handsome. Very handsome. But he has a hot temper, driving people away after a few words. Oh, Fang Hao said he wouldn't sleep with me, calling me rotten to the core, indulging excessively. It infuriated me. Su sister, do you want me to expose your husband? Have a go with him and see if your husband is a faithful man. You're playing with fire. If you really touch my husband, be careful I turn against you. Su Ro stared coldly at Yue Xia Huo, issuing a warning. Her man couldn't be touched by other women. Su sister, this is the real you. You should be more domineering. Fang Hao looks tough, but he has no foundation. A warning from you, and he'll obediently comply. Yue Xia Huo drank some coffee, then got up. As she left, she thought to herself that Fang Hao, such a handsome man, must be enjoyable. Su Ro, if you look down on me, wait until your husband kneels before me. When that happens, will he still go west when told to go east? Su Ro worked until 4:30, exchanged greetings with Chairman Yunjia, and left work early. She went directly to the hospital to find Fang Hao. Not finding him in the gynecology department, she inquired and saw him at the entrance of the second operating room in the surgical department. Fang Hao looked regretful because a patient who came in for consultation needed urgent surgery, but Yang Wenjin didn't allow the gynecology department to perform the operation. More precisely, she didn't give him the opportunity to operate. He had to redirect the patient to the surgical department, where the surgical team would take over. Upon hearing someone call his name, Fang Hao turned, saw Su Ro, furrowed his brows slightly, and then approached, asking, What are you here for? Wife, I came to pick you up after work, let's go home together. Su Ro's eyes narrowed, her eyebrows curved, looking very beautiful. Fang Hao said, I still have things to do, and I haven't finished work. Besides, I have night shift duty tonight, so I won't be going home. Lowering his voice a bit, he added, We're getting a divorce. Why would I go home? Su Ro, I'm not a burden anymore. Go and live your sweet life with your lover. Don't look for me anymore. Fang Hao, I really don't have the lover you're talking about. It doesn't exist. I only have you. I won't divorce you. Fang Hao, I order you to come home with me immediately. Otherwise, I'll report to your superiors. Su Ro's attitude suddenly became stern. Report to my superiors? Who? Yang Wenjin or Lu Yu? Well, these people, you're familiar with them all. They are either relatives or close friends of your Su family, with a network of interests. What do you want to report to them? Fang Hao was also displeased, staring at Su Ro without any retreat in his eyes. What kind of doctor disregards their family? Family? Are you still in the mood to mention that family? Forget it, let's not argue. If you want to report, then go ahead. But let me tell you first, Yang Wenjin and Liu both know that I want to divorce you. Fang Hao snorted and left. You? Su Ro was shocked, not expecting Fang Hao to be so decisive, even mentioning the divorce to others. When reporting a divorce to the superiors, it definitely meant it was going to happen. She also saw Fang Hao's determination to divorce, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. She underestimated Fang Hao. Unwilling, she subconsciously followed Fang Hao. When she saw Fang Hao go to the gynecology department and then to the clinic, she sat outside waiting. Not long after, Liu walked over, saw Su Ro, thought for a moment, and then went up to call Su Ro into the office. She asked, "Are you here to find Fang Hao?" "Well, that's good, I also have a question for you. Fang Hao said he wants to divorce you. What's going on?" Su Ro said, "Don't listen to what Fang Hao says. I won't divorce him." Liu said, "I don't want to interfere in the affairs between you as a couple, and I don't have the authority to do so. However, Su Ro, I have a close relationship with your mother, and I've known you since you were a child. But I believe that a divorce between a couple is not one-sided. I know a bit about Fang Hao's character, and he's not the problem." Su Ro said, "Auntie, you don't understand the feelings between Fang Hao and me. Please don't get involved. I won't divorce Fang Hao. I love him very much." Liu frowned and said, "But Fang Hao said you have a better option outside." "Who? Did he tell you?" "No. Since he didn't, then it's not true. Fang Hao and I won't divorce. Auntie Liu, although you're Fang Hao's superior, I hope you remain neutral and not play the role of a villain to break us apart. Little girl, you have a sharp tongue. Okay, I won't meddle in your affairs. But this is the gynecology department. If you want to argue with Fang Hao, it's better to do it at home, not here. If you have no health issues, don't come here to avoid affecting Fang Hao's mood. In case it leads to a medical accident for Fang Hao, it'll be disastrous." Chapter 177, Su Lianin doesn't want children. Su Ro left the office but didn't leave the hospital. She waited for Fang Hao outside the cafeteria. When Fang Hao approached, she went directly to him and said, "Husband, let's not argue, but you also need to be rational. If you don't come back with me, are you going to give up on Jiezhou every day? I'm pregnant now. You can't expect me to continue taking care of 2 children." At this point, Fang Hao couldn't push the blame any further. Even if Jiezhou wasn't his biological child, she was still his child. He followed Su Ro back. He went back to the community first to prepare dinner, while Su Ro went to the kindergarten to pick up the children. During dinner, Fang Hao asked Su Ro, "Do you have to work overtime tonight?" Su Ro frowned, realizing that her husband's words weren't to be taken literally. However, that night, she did meet with that person. But who would have thought that Fang Hao came back that night and even went to her company to find her? Even though she explained, Fang Hao wouldn't believe that she was working overtime. She said, "Husband, that night I really worked overtime. If you don't believe me, you can ask Sister Yun for confirmation." Fang Hao made a dismissive gesture and said, "I'm asking you, do you need to work overtime tonight?" "No, I don't." "Then I do. Later, you wash the dishes, tidy up the kitchen, and let them take a bath and go to bed." After saying that, Fang Hao quickly finished his meal and put down his chopsticks. Su Ro hurriedly asked, "Are you coming back tonight?" "Why ask these questions? I've been used to night shifts for 4 years, and you've been used to being alone at home. It's more convenient this way." Fang Hao ignored her and left. Su Ro went to the balcony and could see Fang Hao almost running out of the community. Looking further, she saw Fang Hao chasing a taxi ahead, catching up with it, and then leaving. "Husband, are you really so stubborn?" She furrowed her brows tightly. After calming down, Fang Hao arrived at the hospital just in time for the night shift. He was currently holding the position of deputy director in a major department, and the distribution of registration quotas also favored him. Therefore, he had quite a few patients assigned to him. Busy until 10:30, seeing no more patients, he decided to leave work early. This day had been exhausting for him. Instead of going home, he went directly to the dormitory. Opening his computer, he found Jin Shaojian online. "Brother Hao, I've been following my sister for a day, but I haven't seen anything unusual. She just had dinner and chatted with my mom. She's at home now." Fang Hao didn't want to type, so he directly called Jin Shaojian and asked, "Did you hear them talking? Is she agitated?" Jean Xiaojian said, I didn't hear them talking, but she does seem agitated. My mom wants to hit my sister. Brother Hao, what exactly do you want me to investigate about my sister? Fang Hao thought for a moment and said, originally, my superiors didn't allow me to disclose this, but your relationship with me is different, so I'll tell you. Your sister is pregnant, 3 months along. What? My sister is pregnant? That's right. Let your sister come to the hospital for a checkup. I saw the ultrasound. She's 3 months pregnant. Think about where your sister was 3 months ago and if she had a boyfriend. If she takes over your mom's company, you'll have to deal with her and her boyfriend. If you can make your mom lose confidence in your sister and focus on cultivating you, you'll have a chance. The amount of information is a bit overwhelming. Oh, why's that? My sister was studying abroad 3 months ago. She was at Harvard. Abroad? Did she find a foreign boyfriend? It's possible. I had no idea. Brother Hao, what should I do? Find an opportunity to confront your sister and let your mom know about your existence. You're reliable. Stir up some trouble? I can't give you specific advice. After all, you guys are in the upper echelons of society, and I don't understand your game rules. You can ask your friends in the same social class. Fang Hao hung up the phone. He felt a bit frustrated because he saw a calligraphy group photo taken by Zhang Lingtian at the School of Arts in Jiangdong University 3 months ago. If Zhang Lingtian was in China 3 months ago, he probably wasn't involved with Su Lianin, and the child in her belly wouldn't be his. If it wasn't Zhang Lingtian's, it had nothing to do with him. Putting aside these distracting thoughts, Fang Hao took a shower, read a bit of medical literature, and went to sleep. The next day, he conducted his routine rounds but was called into the office by Lu Yu. In the office, Fang Hao saw Su Lianin and a beautiful woman whom he vaguely recognized as Su Jia. Director, is there something you need? Fang Hao glanced at Su Jia and her daughter before turning to Lu Yu. Lu Yu introduced Su Jia first before getting straight to the point. Director Fang, we'd like you to examine Xiao Yin's pulse. Fang Hao looked at Su Lianin, who seemed surprised. He hadn't expected the young Fang Hao to be the deputy director in charge of the gynecology department. Is there something uncomfortable, Miss Su? He asked. You'll know once you examine my pulse, Su Lianin replied with the same arrogance as before. Su Jia glanced at Lu Yu with a questioning look, but seeing Lu Yu nod, she didn't directly ask and decided to observe first. Fang Hao examined the pulse, checking both wrists. Then he addressed Su Jia, congratulations, Chairwoman Su. You're going to be a grandmother. The fetus is 3 months old, and everything is fine. He then looked at Su Lianin, who was dumbfounded. She didn't know that Fang Hao had seen the ultrasound and believed he could determine it through pulse examination. This is a boy. You may not have noticed your pregnancy, and if you had paid more attention to your diet, he would have developed even better. He turned to Lu Yu and said, if she chooses to keep the baby and we provide prenatal care, it's also possible. You should have more experience in this area, so I'll leave the plan to you. I don't want this child. Please arrange for an abortion, Su Lianin spoke up. Fang Hao was surprised but didn't say much. He thought to himself that whether she wanted the child or not was none of his concern. If she didn't want it, the child probably wasn't Zhang Lingtian's. If she gave birth to a mixed-race child, and it turned out to be a black child, how could it inherit Su Jia's company? Handing such a large company to a black child would probably make the elders laugh. Su Jia said, Director Fang, you've proven your exceptional diagnostic skills just now. As Lu mentioned, you're outstanding. I believe you can provide a Chinese medicine abortion plan that won't harm Xiao Yin's body or leave any traces. Is such a plan possible? Fang Hao looked at Lu Yu before realizing that Lu Yu had consulted him about this last night. He looked back at Su Jia and said, let Miss Su step outside, and we can discuss it further. No need to keep it from me. Speak your mind, Su Lianin disagreed. Chapter 178, 1 million hush money. Fang Hao insisted on having Su Lianin leave. If she didn't leave, he wouldn't discuss it further. Su Jia had no choice but to ask her daughter to step outside, then turned to Fang Hao and inquired about his plan. Fang Director, you must be an experienced professional. You should know that a 3-month-old fetus is already formed, and there's no possibility of abortion. If you want it to be traceless, it's practically theoretical, Su Jia explained. Lu Yu added, Director Fang, you mentioned buying a house at Tianji Peak. Zhang Jun should have informed you of the procedures. Apart from Zhang Jun vouching for you in the political review, you also need approval from Su Jie in this matter. Su Jie nodded and continued, Director Fang, even if you encounter difficulties in proving your financial capability, I can work on the other shareholders to be more lenient. Regardless, if you choose not to buy the house, after helping me this time, I will reward you handsomely. Time is precious for everyone. Can you give a straightforward answer? Can you do it? Fang Hao's expression remained cold as he replied, Chairwoman Su, you have an extensive network. If other channels were reliable, you wouldn't have come to me. What I can provide is an unconventional method. I must clarify that I haven't encountered such a case before. Even if I know how to proceed, there are risks involved. Don't overthink it. The risk doesn't involve Ms. Su's life, but it might not be foolproof. If a discerning gynecologist comes across this, they might still detect that Ms. Su was pregnant. Lu Yu breathed a sigh of relief and asked, how significant is this risk? Fang Hao remained silent, holding up 5 fingers. What does this mean? Su Jie inquired. Fang Hao explained, out of 100 chief physicians in obstetrics and gynecology in third-grade hospitals, 5 might notice it. This. Lu Yu chuckled. Director Fang, you're too cautious. She turned to Su Jie and said, you can trust Director Fang. Su Jie had been observing Fang Hao all along. From reading the pulse to accurately determining the gender and proposing a plan, she found that Fang Hao's demeanor and tone hadn't changed. Just as Lu Yu had said, Fang Hao was remarkably steady, displaying a level of composure that didn't match his age. She asked, Director Fang, can you elaborate on the plan? I'll print it out. Fang Hao went to the computer, typed swiftly, and in a few minutes, he had a document of around 1,000 words. He printed it out for them to review. Su Jie glanced at the plan. It seemed simple, a traditional Chinese medicine abortion, followed by a minimally invasive repair surgery after the stillborn baby was delivered. She didn't understand the professional details and looked at Lu Yu instead. Lu Yu asked Fang Hao some questions about the principles and procedures, allowing Su Jie to listen. After Fang Hao finished explaining, Lu Yu turned to Su Jie and said, this plan is feasible. At Provincial People's Hospital, I can arrange a delivery room for you at night, ensuring complete confidentiality. Take some time to consider it. Alright, I'll consider it. Sister Lu, Director Fang, please keep it confidential. Su Jie stood up, put away the plan, took out 2 checks, and then left. Lu Yu handed the checks to Fang Hao, warning him not to divulge any information. It was considered hush money. Fang Hao looked at the checks, each worth 500,000. This meant he had unexpectedly earned an extra million for nothing. His emotions surged, then quickly settled, and he went to start his clinic. In the car, Su Lianin asked, Mom, how is it? Can it be done? Su Jie replied, it can be done, but we need to arrange a time. This Fang Hao is quite extraordinary. Oh, why does this person sound familiar to me? Did you mention him to me before? Fang Hao. He's a friend of Jin Shaojian. Last time, Jin Shaojian brought him to our house, and he even saw your painting. Mom, could it be Fang Hao who proposed the plan? So, it's him. Oh, your younger brother probably already knows about your situation. Su Jie called to find out Jin Shaojian's location and then went straight to Jiangdong University. When Jin Shaojian got into the car and saw his sister there with an unfriendly expression, he boldly said, Su Lianin, you really have no shame. You? Su Lianin frowned, gritting her teeth. She said, Fang Hao, you villain. What did Brother Hao do? Brother Hao is my friend. When he found out you were pregnant, he asked me for wedding candy, so he told me. But he didn't know you were with a foreigner. Brother Hao and I are buddies. Last time, you criticized him in front of me, looking down on him. You didn't give him any face. But who would have thought Brother Hao is a doctor, and a really skilled one? Jin Shaojian turned to Su Jie and said, Mom, take a good look. This is the seedling you focused on cultivating. Your daughter is pregnant with a foreigner's child. If this gets out, who do you expect to marry her? The reputation of the Su family and the Jin family will all be ruined by her. Enough, say 1 or 2 less. Are you going to be mute? Arrange a lunch with Brother Hao. Make it happen at noon. Su Jie gave the order, her eyebrows furrowed. This was the thing she worried about the most. Her daughter unexpectedly got pregnant, and it was a foreigner's child. It was a mistake that happened at a party. Now, the father of the child didn't even know who he was. This troubled her deeply. But an even greater crisis was that she wanted her daughter to form alliances with other families in the future. Once her daughter's disgraceful act was exposed, she would be in a very passive position during these alliances. Invite Brother Hao to the house for lunch? Why? To silence people's mouths. Why else? With your awareness, how am I supposed to cultivate you? I told you to bring him home, and now the opportunity is in front of you. Can you seize it? If you can't even do such a small thing, what use are you? Just like your useless father, what's the point? Mom, you look down on me, but now you're asking for my help? Hurry up and ask me. Beg me to keep quiet. Jin Xiaojian snorted. Su Lianing clenched her teeth, almost biting her lips until they bled. The one who made the mistake was her, and now she was the passive one. Xiaojian, are you going to be arrogant? Aren't we all in this together, sharing glory and shame? If your sister loses face, as a man, will you gain glory? Your sister has indeed disappointed me this time, and she will be punished. But what about you? Can you seize the opportunity and rise to the occasion? If you can't, you'll also end up lying on the ground. What glory do you have then? Su Jia spoke calmly, not angry but authoritative. I will invite Brother Hao. You better take a good look. This is your chance. If you can't seize it, it'll prove that you're a waste. Jin Xiaojian frowned, realizing that Su Lianing had set herself up for destruction this time. His chance had come. However, just as Su Jia had said, if he couldn't seize this opportunity, it would prove that he was also worthless. Chapter 179, I'm just a doctor. When the last registered patient finished their consultation, Fang Hao stood up and stretched, letting out a sigh of relief. The head nurse also breathed a sigh of relief and exclaimed, Director, in the past 2 hours, we've actually seen 140 patients. You're amazing. She had partnered with other department heads before, and most doctors could only see 30 to 40 patients in a morning. When dealing with more complicated cases, the number would be even less. Apart from registration limitations, there was also the issue of capability. Many department heads, especially experts and professors, limited their patient load to minimize the risk of making mistakes. They aimed for a record of no major errors rather than achieving remarkable success. However, Fang Hao was different. He couldn't afford to see fewer patients. You've worked hard too, Fang Hao replied with a faint smile. During the process of seeing patients, he was also refining his medical theories. In the 4 years since he had the chance to practice medicine, his focus had been more on theoretical research. Now, with clinical practice, his understanding of theory became more thorough. A comprehensive understanding of one principle could apply to various situations, and his medical skills were improving. After leaving the consultation room, Fang Hao saw Jin Xiaojian and frowned. You haven't left? Earlier, Jin Xiaojian had called Fang Hao, wanting to come here and talk face-to-face, but Fang Hao had declined, citing his busy clinic schedule. Unexpectedly, Jin Xiaojian persisted. Hao Gu, come to my place for lunch at noon, Jin Xiaojian said, grabbing Fang Hao's hand and attempting to lead him outside. Fang Hao asked the head nurse to leave first and then, holding a cigarette, stepped aside with Jin Xiaojian. What's the reason? My mom asked me to bring you. This is a test for me. If I can't do it, my mom will think I'm useless. Hao Gu, you have to help me. We're on the same boat. Fang Hao thought, your mother is really something. He understood that Jin Xiaojian was likely going to bring up the matter of the manuscript with a gun again. Alright, wait for me at the entrance. I'll go to the office first to get something. Fang Hao dismissed Jin Xiaojian and then went to the office. He found Liu still there and directly said, Director, I was just about to call you. I have something to consult with you. Su Jia asked her son to invite me to her house for a meal. I can't refuse, but how should I handle it? It's not good to take advantage of people and also eat their food. What should I do? Oh, just go. Don't overthink it. As long as you stick to what you should and shouldn't do, you can face it with a clear conscience. Su Jia is a decent person, she won't make things difficult for you. Liu didn't say much. Originally, she wanted to wait for Fang Hao to finish work and then go out for a meal together. However, since Su Jia had made an appointment, she didn't want to argue with her. Alright, I'll do what I should and shouldn't do. Fang Hao nodded, took off his white coat, picked up his small bag, and left. At the entrance, Jin Xiaojian saw Fang Hao walking out alone. He asked, Hao Gu, what about the Mercedes from last time? Big brother, that belongs to our director, not mine. If I had such a ride, would I still be working here? I would have long gone to enjoy life. But you, a rich second generation, why don't you have anything? Fang Hao said, mentioning that the Mercedes was still with Lu Jingli, who had no intention of returning it. Fang Hao had no right to demand it back, so he either took a taxi or the bus to work. Jin Shaojian felt embarrassed. Fang Hao said, let me be frank with you. Your mom and sister visited the gynecology department this morning and had examinations. They want to terminate the pregnancy. During the meal later, they will probably discuss this matter with me. What can I do for you? Jin Shaojian replied, How gu, can you find out if that bastard is black or white? I can't. It's not appropriate for me to ask. You have to remember, I'm just a doctor. Once I leave this hospital, I'm just an ordinary guy, nothing special. After helping your sister with the induced abortion, I'll be useless. Your mom and sister won't even spare me a glance. Understand? Fang Hao was well aware of his position. He continued, your rights need to be fought for by yourself. After this abortion, your sister's status in your mom's eyes will definitely plummet. The balance is tilting. It depends on whether you want to rise or let your sister fall. Jin Shaojian said, How gu, you're so capable, no one dares to underestimate you. I don't understand how to fight for rights in this aspect. What about your buddies? They were all eliminated by their families. They only know how to eat, drink, and have fun. How gu, you're so smart, you have to help me figure something out. Let's discuss these later. Let's go to your house first and see how your mom and sister treat me. Fang Hao saw the car approaching and signaled for Jin Shaojian to join him. Together, they got into the car. Fang Hao felt that this was a good opportunity. By helping Jin Shaojian gain power, he could enter the upper echelons of society. Although there might be risks, it was worth taking for him to climb higher. Arriving at Tianji Peak, Jin Shaojian led the way, smoothly passing through the security check. Fang Hao asked, Shaojian, if I come to Tianji Peak in the future and mention your name, will it work? It didn't work before, but now it should. Jin Shaojian smiled. That's true. Young Master Jin is no longer an ordinary person. Now that you're going to take off. Fang Hao also smiled. In addition to agreeing, there was a hidden ambition in his heart. Entering the grand villa, Fang Hao noticed Su Jia waiting at the main entrance. Director Fang, please come in. Su Jia gestured for Fang Hao to enter. Director Su, you're too polite. You go first. Director Fang, let's not stand on ceremony. Please come in together. Su Jia had Jin Shaojian take Fang Hao to wash up before heading to the Western-style dining room. This time, they had Italian pasta and Brazilian-style steak. Su Jia learned that Fang Hao didn't drive there, so she opened a bottle of top-tier red wine. Seeing Fang Hao enjoying his meal heartily, unlike her daughter who took small bites, Su Jia felt that Fang Hao was coarse. After eating a bit, she claimed to have no appetite and went to her room. At the dining table, Su Jia didn't mention anything about her daughter. Instead, she asked Fang Hao about his experiences, trying to subtly inquire about the VIP patients Fang Hao had treated. Fang Hao, however, didn't disclose any details. Su Jia felt that Fang Hao was good at keeping secrets. After the meal, Su Jia asked her son to take Fang Hao for a tour of the villa. She then cleaned up and planned to have a serious conversation with Fang Hao. Last time Fang Hao came here, he saw Su Liangtian as soon as he entered and didn't have a chance to tour the villa. Now he understood that this villa was more luxurious than his father-in-law's. Su Liangtian's villa only had above-ground structures, while Su Jia's villa had 3 underground floors, including a gym, indoor swimming pool, home theater, study, and more. It was like a small world. Fang Hao realized that the layout of other houses was probably similar. When Su Liangtian brought his wife here, he wouldn't miss such a chance for intimate moments, both above and below ground. Thinking about such a scene, Fang Hao felt a slight pain in his heart, as if he were bleeding. His wife was truly rotten. Chapter 180, Painful Reality. After the tour, Fang Hao's mood was quite low, tinged with a hint of self-deprecation. However, his face remained indifferent, neither happy nor sad. As Su Lianing approached, Fang Hao went to the study, leaving Jin Shaojian behind. Jin Shaojian, now holding his head high, chest out, asked Su Lianing, Sis, who is my brother-in-law? Get lost. Su Lianing's gaze turned icy. She warned, Jin Shaojian, don't get cocky. Just because you think you can overshadow me doesn't mean you can. Forget about it. Jin Shaojian retorted, Oh, you're a cooked duck, yet still quacking. It's been 3 months, and the baby is already formed. I'd like to see if it comes out black or white. Gritting her teeth, Su Lianin said, "You want to challenge me? It will end in mutual destruction, and you won't gain anything. I may be at a disadvantage, but what about Lianin? Mom will hand the company over to her, not you." Furrowing his brow, Jin Xiaojian realized that his sister had embarrassed herself, but at least there was a smart younger sister. A few days ago, in a test, that younger sister secured the first place in the grade at City First High School. According to their mother, if she achieved the same in the next test, she could be directly admitted to Peking University or Tsinghua University. Lianin? You were excellent before, but you ended up the same way. So, my chance might not be non-existent. Jin Xiaojian remained stubborn. He really wanted to listen to what his mother and Fang Hao would discuss. Ideally, Fang Hao would help him gain more favorable power. In the study, Fang Hao once again saw the painting worth 80 million. This time, it carried a different and extraordinary meaning. Seeing Fang Hao looking at the painting, Su Jie said, "Director Fang, do you also like this style? If you do, I can give it to you." Fang Hao quickly refused, saying, "This won't do. It's worth millions. I'm just a doctor with no artistic cells." "Director Su, why are you willing to spend millions on a painting?" "Well, I don't really understand art, but I know it has value." Su Jie added, "Several million is a considerable sum, but it's just money." "You're impressive. Some say that making a billion is a small goal. Indeed, you guys are in the same league. I'm on the ground, and you're in the stratosphere." Fang Hao gave a thumbs up to Su Jie, acknowledging her. Su Jie said, "But even though you're on the ground, don't you also yearn for the view from the stratosphere? If you want to buy a house here, you'll need to come up with a sum like this." "Oh, that's a goal, allowing me to have a direction to strive towards. I don't expect to achieve it. It's just holding on to a glimmer of hope. Even if I can't achieve it, at least I've worked hard. When I look back later, maybe I'll find that I've climbed a step, not just standing on the ground." "Truly, Director Su, you have my admiration." Fang Hao laughed, but deep down, he already understood. Tang Qi mentioned that Su Jie and Su Lianin had an exceptionally close relationship, possibly involved in money laundering. Now, seeing Su Jie, a mature and beautiful woman, it was highly likely that she had been taken by Tang Qi. Women, for men, spending a fortune is not an exaggeration. Su Jie didn't understand art, but she still spent millions on a painting, a disguised way of giving money to Tang Qi. Let's assume for a moment that Su Jie is Tang Qi's woman. If she wanted a painting from Tang Qi, it would be straightforward. So when she said she would give it to Fang Hao, it wasn't just a joke. Fang Hao realized another painful fact: this style was similar to the one at home. His wife, Su Jie, was Tang Qi's woman. It wasn't unreasonable, as Tang Qi was outstanding. Proficient in various arts, backgrounds extraordinary, capturing a woman's heart would be a breeze. He checked the time and said, "Director Su, the money is received, the meal is eaten, let's get straight to the point. What do you need me to do?" Su Jie replied, "Director Fang is indeed a clever person. So, I won't beat around the bush. You just toured the house and have some understanding. If I ask you to perform the induction for Lianin at my place, can you do it? Don't want to do it at the hospital? In fact, our hospital can also ensure confidentiality." Fang Hao hadn't expected Su Jie to want to conduct the induction for Su Lianin at home. "Your provincial people's hospital is undergoing personnel transfers, and your obstetrics and gynecology department will be the first to implement it. It could happen as soon as 2 weeks or at most a month. Right now, Lianin is recuperating, and if we perform the induction in your obstetrics and gynecology department, there will be walls with ears. Once the news gets out, it will be very disadvantageous for both my daughter and me." Su Jie continued, "Maybe the people transferring into your obstetrics and gynecology department and I are not a good match. I don't want to give others a handle. Director Fang, name your price." "I'm not the kind of person you think I am. Doctors don't make deals. Then you can arrange a medical room. Once your daughter has recovered, I'll come over to help with the induction. Sooner rather than later." Fang Hao brought out an A4 paper, listing the essential requirements for a simple medical room. He believed Su Jie would go shopping for them. Su Jie mentioned her daughter needed to recover, but in reality, she wanted to set up a medical room at home for her daughter's induction. Fang Hao had already seen through this. He also knew that Su Jie might be consulting with other doctors, and he was just one option. At that time, it might not necessarily be him leading the procedure. Therefore, he had left some room for maneuvering in the plan. Director Fang, aren't you going to mention any conditions? Su Jie stared at Fang Hao, as if trying to see through his thoughts. I also have my own interests. After my credentials are verified, I hope you won't make things difficult for me. Besides that, I don't lack anything. Of course, under the premise of not making things difficult, if you want to give me money or anything else, I won't refuse. Fang Hao was candid. If you say I'm a clever person, then I'll show you how clever I can be. Su Jie nodded and asked, how did you and Jin Shaojian meet? I worked as a temporary lecturer at Jiangdong University a while ago and met him. We got acquainted through that. Besides, he consulted me about his friend's woman being pregnant. As you can see, I'm just a doctor providing medical advice. Fang Hao didn't reveal the gunwriting incident. In fact, it wasn't a significant issue because he was a ghostwriter, not the person buying the gun drafts. If he revealed it, the impact would only affect others. Su Jie nodded and said, you're a very talented doctor, almost a genius. I hope you continue to be a pure doctor. Director Fang, I'll be frank with you. Li Nin's situation has disrupted my plans, and Shaojian has some ambitions. So, between them, there will be some actions that might amuse you. But this is a matter within my family, and I hope you won't get involved. Understood. I'm just a doctor. Director Su, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. I still have to work in the afternoon. Fang Hao bid farewell. Jin Shaojian wanted to accompany Fang Hao but was stopped by Su Jie.